My hand was reaching for the stove when I felt it, small fingers, cold, wrapping around my wrist. I looked down. Jamie stood beside me, my grandson, 6 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes like his grandfather's. 3 months dead. His voice came out barely above a whisper. "Grandma, please, don't turn it on." My heart stopped. From the hallway, Nicole's voice drifted in, light and easy. "Go ahead, Mom, start cooking." I turned my head. She was arranging flowers in a vase, smiling at me. She didn't see him. She didn't see her son standing right there. I froze, because if Nicole couldn't see him, then what was my grandson trying to tell me? I need to go back to before that moment in the kitchen, to help you understand how we got here. 8 months ago, I moved into this house, Stephen's house. My son, 35 years old, an accountant, works long hours downtown. He asked me to come live with him and Nicole after Robert died. Robert, my husband, 42 years together. He had a heart attack last January, dropped dead in the driveway while taking out the trash. I found him there when I came back from the grocery store. His face was gray, his lips were blue. The bag of trash was still in his hand. After that, I couldn't stay in our house. Too many ghosts, the living kind, the ones made of memory, Robert's coffee mug on the counter, his reading glasses on the nightstand, the smell of his aftershave in the bathroom. So when Stephen asked me to move in, I said yes. The house is in the suburbs outside Denver. 3 bedrooms, a backyard with an old swing set that nobody uses anymore. Nicole works in marketing, some tech company downtown. She leaves early, comes home late. Stephen does the same. I help around the house, cook dinner, tend the garden, try to stay out of the way. And I spent time with Jamie. 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 He was my only grandchild, 6 years old, blonde hair that stuck up in the back no matter how much you brushed it. Blue eyes just like Robert's, same little crinkle at the corners when he smiled. He loved helping me bake cookies. Chocolate chip. He'd stand on the step stool, his small hands covered in flour, mixing the dough, always asking questions. "Why does sugar make things sweet, Grandma? Why does the oven get hot? Why? He had a thing about holding my hand when he was scared. Thunder, loud noises, the dark. His little fingers would slip into mine and squeeze. 3 times. That was our signal. I love you. We'd read together before bed. Picture books mostly. He liked the one about the dinosaur who was afraid of the dark. He'd point to each word and try to sound it out. His voice was high and soft. He called me Grandma Claire, never just Grandma, always both. 3 months ago, on a Tuesday night in July, Jamie died. I was out that evening, meeting an old friend from my nursing days. Linda. We went to a coffee shop on the east side. Spent 2 hours catching up, talking about nothing important. Nicole was home with Jamie. Stephen was traveling for work, Denver to Chicago, some client meeting. At 9:47, my phone rang. Nicole's voice came through the speaker. "Hi," frantic. "Margaret, come home. Jamie. He's not breathing." She called me Margaret, not Mom. She always called me Mom, except when something was wrong. I left money on the table, didn't wait for change, ran to my car, drove 15 minutes across town. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely grip the wheel. When I got there, the ambulance was already gone. Nicole was sitting on the front steps, crying, her makeup running down her face in black streaks. She told me what happened. Jamie had been playing in the kitchen, alone. He climbed up on the step stool, reached for the stove. The burner was hot. He touched it, screamed, fell backward. Hit his head on the corner of the counter. She said she was in the living room watching TV, heard a loud crash, ran in, found him on the floor, not moving. Called 911, tried CPR, but it was too late. At the hospital, they said he died from head trauma, skull fracture, plus second-degree burns on his right arm and shoulder. An accident. That's what the police report said, a tragic accident. We buried him 4 days later. Small cemetery on the north side. Robert was buried there too. Now they were together, grandfather and grandson. At the funeral, Nicole cried. A lot. But I noticed something. No real tears. Her eyes were red, her face was wet. But when I looked close, really close, I didn't see actual tears falling. And she kept checking her phone. During the service, during the burial, quick little glances when she thought no one was looking. Once, I heard her on a call in the bathroom, talking low, something about insurance settlement. I didn't think much of it then. Grief does strange things to people. But now, standing in that kitchen with Jamie's ghost clutching my wrist, I remembered. That morning, 3 months after we buried him, I walked past his room. The door was closed, but I could swear I heard him breathing on the other side. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back to that moment in the kitchen. When Jamie grabbed my hand, I let go of the stove knob, pulled my hand back. Nicole walked in from the hallway, still holding those flowers. She looked at me. "Are you okay, Mom?" I forced a smile. "Just feeling dizzy. I'll make tea instead." She glanced at the stove. Quick. Her eyes swept over it, then back to me. Something flickered across her face. Tension, just for a second. Then it was gone. "You should rest," she said. "I'll handle dinner." I nodded, said I'd go lie down, went upstairs to my room, closed the door, sat on the edge of the bed. My hands were still shaking. I pressed them against my knees to make them stop. Was I losing my mind? Had grief finally broken something inside me? But the feeling of Jamie's hand had been so real. The cold, the pressure of his small fingers, the desperate way he'd squeezed my wrist. And his voice, clear as anything. "Grandma, please, don't turn it on." I reached into the nightstand drawer, pulled out the photo I kept there. Jamie at his 5th birthday party, frosting on his nose. That crooked smile. I ran my thumb over his face. "Baby," I whispered to the empty room. "If that was really you, show Grandma what you need to say." The air stayed still, silent. No answer came. That afternoon, Nicole left for work. Stephen went to the office. The house was mine. I went back downstairs, into the kitchen, stood in the exact spot where the accident happened, where Jamie fell, where he died. The stove was old, 10 years at least, gas burners, the kind you light with a match if the ignition doesn't work. I looked at the corner of the counter, sharp edge, but there was a foam guard on it, one of those baby-proofing things, soft, rounded. I looked at the step stool. It was pushed against the far wall, 3 feet from the stove. Jamie wouldn't have been able to reach the burner from there, not even standing on his toes. And then I saw it. A small crack in the stovetop, right on the edge, like someone had hit it, hard, with something heavy. I bent down, got on my knees, looked into the narrow gap between the stove and the counter. Something was wedged in there, plastic, green. I reached in, my fingers closed around it, pulled it out. A small dinosaur toy, a T-Rex, Jamie's favorite. He called it Rex, carried it everywhere. Nicole said he'd lost it 2 months before he died. We'd searched the whole house, never found it. But here it was, right where Jamie fell. If he'd lost it 2 months before, why was it at the scene of the accident? I bent down, and in the crack between the stove and the counter, I found it. A small dinosaur toy, Jamie's favorite. The one Nicole said he lost 2 months before he died. I held that little green T-Rex in my palm. The plastic was smooth, worn down from Jamie's hands, from all the times he'd carried it in his pocket, slept with it under his pillow. Rex. That's what he called it. He got it at a museum gift shop when he was 4. Loved that thing more than any toy he owned. 2 months before Jamie died, Nicole told us he'd lost it. Said he was heartbroken. We searched everywhere. Under beds, in closets, behind the couch. Stephen even checked the car. Nothing. Nicole said maybe he'd left it at the park, or at preschool. She'd ask around. But we never found it. So why was it here? Wedged between the stove and counter, right where my grandson fell. If he'd lost it 2 months ago, it shouldn't be here. But if he had it the night he died, then Nicole lied. I went upstairs, to the small office Stephen uses for paperwork, opened the filing cabinet, found the folder labeled Jamie, police report, medical records, funeral expenses. I pulled out the accident report. Date of incident, July 16th. Time, 9:47 p.m. Rachel Anderson reported a domestic accident involving her minor son. She stated the child was playing in the kitchen unsupervised, climbed onto a step stool, made contact with hot stove burner, fell backward. Struck head on corner of kitchen counter. Mother heard loud noise from living room. Found child unresponsive on floor. Called 911 immediately. Paramedics arrived at 9:53. Child pronounced dead at Denver General at 10:28. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to skull. Contributing factor: second-degree burns. I read it 3 times. Nicole said she was in the living room, watching TV, heard a loud crash. But if Jamie only climbed on a stool and fell, how would that make a loud crash? A 6-year-old boy falling 3 feet? That would be a thump, maybe a bump, not a crash. And there was something else. I remembered that phone call, the one at 9:47. When Nicole called me at the coffee shop, her voice, high, frantic. "Margaret, come home. Jamie, he's not breathing." Margaret, not Mom. Nicole always called me Mom, from the day she married Stephen. Even when we disagreed about something, even when she was annoyed with me, always Mom. Except that night. And now that I thought about it, her voice hadn't sounded right, not panicked, not the way a mother sounds when her child is dying. It sounded like acting. I sat there in Stephen's office chair, holding that police report, thinking about the phone call, about Rex the dinosaur, about the stove that was still on when I got home. I'd arrived at the house at 10:15. Walked in through the front door. Nicole was on the steps, crying. The ambulance had left 5 minutes before. But when I went into the kitchen, the stove was still on. All 4 burners, flames burning blue. Why would Nicole leave the stove on? Why wouldn't the paramedics turn it off? That's protocol. Secure the scene. Make it safe. Unless someone wanted it left on, wanted something to happen. I sat there, holding that tiny plastic dinosaur, and I realized something that made my blood run cold. The night Jamie died, Nicole called me at 9:47. But the stove was still on when I got home at 10:15. No one turned it off. Not Nicole. Not the paramedics. Why would you leave a hot stove running unless you wanted something to happen? I need to tell you about Nicole, about how she came into our lives, because none of this makes sense without knowing who she was, or who I thought she was. 5 years ago, Stephen met her at a marketing conference, one of those big hotel events downtown. Panel discussions, networking mixers. She was presenting on social media strategy. He said she was the smartest person in the room. Nicole was 33 then, sharp, confident, the kind of woman who walks into a room and everyone notices. She grew up rough. Father left when she was 7. Mother had a drinking problem. Nicole raised herself, put herself through college, built a career from nothing. Stephen was smitten. They dated for 6 months, then he proposed. Robert and I thought it was too fast, but Stephen was happy. Happier than we'd seen him in years. Nicole was good to us. At first, she called Robert every Sunday, asked how his week went, sent me flowers on Mother's Day. At Christmas, she bought me a necklace with Jamie's birthstone, told me I was the mother she never had. Robert liked her, said she was a survivor, said she'd take care of our boy. 2 years after the wedding, Jamie was born. I remember visiting them in the hospital. Nicole was in bed, hair pulled back, no makeup, exhausted. But when the nurse brought Jamie in, she didn't reach for him, just looked at him, like he was something she had to deal with. Stephen took the baby, held him, smiled so wide I thought his face would split, but Nicole turned away, stared at the wall. I told myself it was the hormones, the trauma of birth. Give her time. But time didn't help. Nicole went back to work 6 weeks later, full-time, hired a nanny, then a second nanny when the first one quit, then a third. I started coming over twice a week to help, then 3 times, then 4. Jamie was a good baby, quiet, easy, but Nicole treated him like an obligation, fed him, changed him, put him to bed, but there was no warmth, no connection. Stephen worked longer hours, got a promotion, made good money, but Nicole always wanted more. "We need a bigger house," she'd say. "We need a better car. This neighborhood isn't good enough." Stephen would nod, say he'd work on it, take extra clients, stay late at the office. The pressure wore on him. I could see it in his face. the lines around his eyes, the way his shoulders sagged. When Jamie turned 4, things got worse. Nicole started snapping at him. Over small things. Spilled juice, toys left on the floor. Normal kid stuff. Once, I came over and found Jamie sitting in the corner of his room, crying. I asked him what was wrong. He said Mommy yelled at him for asking for a snack. I talked to Nicole, gently, asked if everything was okay. She smiled, said she was just tired, said being a mother was harder than she'd thought. But I started noticing other things. The way Jamie would ask when Grandma Claire was coming, every time I called, every time Stephen mentioned my name. The way he'd flinch when Nicole raised her voice. The way he'd whisper to me, "Grandma, does Mommy love me?" I'd pull him close, tell him of course she did, tell him she was just stressed, but I didn't believe it, and I think he knew I was lying. One evening, I heard Jamie talking to Stephen. Quiet. In that way kids talk when they're scared. "Daddy," he said, "Mommy doesn't smile at me like she smiles at you." Stephen didn't answer. I don't think he knew what to say. Then last year, Robert died. I fell apart. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. The house felt like a tomb. Every room was full of him, his chair, his books, his coffee cup still in the sink. Nicole suggested I move in with them, said I shouldn't be alone, said they had the space, said Jamie would love having me there. I was grateful. Thought maybe she really did care. But after I moved in, I heard them arguing. Late at night, through the walls. "How long is she staying?" Nicole's voice, sharp. "She's my mother," Stephen, defensive. "This house is already cramped. We can barely afford what we have. She just lost her husband. And we lost our privacy." The arguments got worse, more frequent. Nicole started coming home later, spending more time on her phone, smiling at texts I couldn't see. And Jamie. Jamie started clinging to me more, following me around the house, asking if I was leaving, begging me not to go. 2 weeks before he died, I walked into the kitchen and saw something I'll never forget. Nicole was standing over Jamie. He was sitting at the table, crying. She had his arm, gripped tight, her fingers digging into his skin. When she saw me, she let go, smiled. "Just a little discipline, Mom. He needs to learn." But the look on Jamie's face, pure terror. I remembered one afternoon, 2 weeks before Jamie died. I walked into the kitchen and saw Nicole standing over him. He was crying. She was holding his arm, tight. When she saw me, she let go and smiled. "Just a little discipline, Mom." But the way Jamie looked at me, he was terrified. Those memories haunted me. But I'd pushed them down, told myself I was overreacting. That grief was making me paranoid. Now, sitting in Stephen's office with that police report and Rex the dinosaur, I couldn't push them down anymore. I had to know. That night, I waited until everyone was asleep. Stephen in his room, Nicole in hers. They'd stopped sharing a bed 6 months ago. Stephen said it was because of his snoring, but I knew better. At 2 a.m, I crept downstairs, brought a flashlight, a notebook, my reading glasses. I went to the kitchen, stood in the dark, let my eyes adjust. The stove looked ordinary in the shadows, just an appliance, but I knew better now. I examined every detail, the burners, the knobs, the distance from the step stool to the cooking surface. I opened the cabinet under the sink, found the cleaning supplies, pulled out a bottle of bleach, knelt down on the floor. The wood was lighter in one spot, right where Jamie's head would have hit. Someone had scrubbed hard, tried to erase the stain, but blood soaks deep into wood. You can't get it all out. I know. I was a nurse for 30 years. I shined the flashlight on the corner of the counter. The foam guard was there, soft, rounded. If Jamie hit his head on that, it wouldn't have fractured his skull, wouldn't have killed him. I stood up, pulled out the step stool, measured the distance, 3 feet from the stove. A 6-year-old standing on that stool couldn't reach the burners, not even if he stretched. So how did he get burned? I went back to Stephen's office, found the hospital records in the file. Patient, Jamie Michael Anderson, age 6, date of admission, July 16th, time, 10:02 p.m. Chief complaint, unresponsive, head trauma, burns. I flipped to the doctor's notes. Patient presented with blunt force trauma to posterior skull, occipital region, depressed fracture, brain swelling evident. Secondary injuries. Second-degree burns to right arm and shoulder. Pattern consistent with prolonged contact with heat source. I read that line 3 times. Prolonged contact. If Jamie had accidentally touched the stove, he would have jerked his hand away immediately. The burn would be superficial, maybe first degree, not second degree, not on his shoulder. Second-degree burns on the shoulder meant his skin had been pressed against something hot, held there, for several seconds. And the head injury. Posterior skull, that's the back of the head. If Jamie fell forward off a stool, he'd land on his face, his forehead, not the back of his skull. The back of the skull gets injured when you fall backward, or when someone hits you from behind. My hands started shaking. The paper rustled. This wasn't an accident. Someone hurt him. On purpose. I set the file down, took off my glasses, pressed my palms against my eyes. And then I felt it. The temperature drop. The air went cold, so cold I could see my breath. The flashlight flickered. I opened my eyes. Jamie sat on the floor beside me, cross-legged, translucent. The light from my flashlight passed right through him. He smiled, sad, small. "Grandma," he said, "you found Rex." My throat closed. I couldn't speak. "Baby," I whispered, "what happened to you?" He pointed at the file, the hospital report, the words I'd just read. "Mommy said we'd play a game," he said. His voice was soft, distant, like it was coming from far away. "She said she'd teach me to cook, like you do." Tears ran down my face. "Did she hurt you on purpose?" He nodded. A single tear rolled down his transparent cheek. "She said she was sorry," he whispered. "But she didn't stop." I reached for him, tried to pull him into my arms, but my hands passed through nothing, just cold air, empty space. "Baby," I said, "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you." He shook his head. "You didn't know, Grandma." Nobody knew. His image flickered, fading. "Wait," I said, "don't go." But he looked past me, toward the stairs. Fear crossed his face. "You have to stop her, Grandma, before she hurts Daddy too." "What do you mean?" "She needs money. She always needs money. Daddy has insurance too, more than I did." My blood went cold. Jamie's form grew fainter, thinner, like smoke dissipating. "I love you, Grandma Claire," he said. Then he was gone. I sat there on the floor of Stephen's office, shaking. The room felt warm again, normal, but nothing was normal. Jamie said Nicole needed money, that Stephen had insurance too. I wiped my eyes, stood up, my knees cracked. I went to the filing cabinet, pulled out another folder. Life insurance. There were 2 policies. The first was for Jamie, $500,000. Beneficiary, Nicole Anderson. Date purchased, November 8th, 8 months before he died. Who buys life insurance for a 6-year-old child? The second policy was for Stephen, $1 million. Beneficiary, Nicole Anderson. I flipped to the financial records, credit card statements, bank accounts. Nicole had debt, a lot of it. Credit cards maxed out, $87,000. But that wasn't new debt. I checked the dates. The charges went back 2 years. Designer clothes, expensive restaurants, a weekend trip to Las Vegas. All while they were arguing about money, while Stephen was working overtime, while Nicole was complaining they couldn't afford a bigger house. She'd been spending, hiding it, accumulating debt Stephen didn't know about. And 8 months before Jamie died, she bought a life insurance policy on him. I heard footsteps. Upstairs. Someone walking around. I quickly put everything back in the folders, closed the filing cabinet, turned off the flashlight. Stood in the dark, listening. The footsteps moved down the hall, stopped outside Stephen's bedroom. I heard voices, muffled, low. Nicole and Stephen, arguing. I crept to the office door, opened it just a crack. "Why haven't we received the insurance money yet?" Stephen's voice. Tired, frustrated. "These things take time." Nicole, cold, clipped. "Stop pressuring me. We need it. For Mom, for the house, for everything. Maybe your mother should move out," She's in the way. That's my son's grandmother. Your son is dead, Stephen. We need to move on. Silence. Stephen didn't respond. Couldn't respond. Nicole's footsteps moved away, back to her room, the door closed. I stood in that dark hallway, my hand pressed against the wall to keep from falling. And I knew what she'd done, what she was capable of. And I knew that if I didn't do something, Stephen might be next. The insurance on him was worth twice as much. The next morning, I sat at the breakfast table with Stephen. He looked tired, older than 35, gray at his temples, lines around his mouth. I wanted to say it, right there, across the coffee and toast. Your wife killed Jamie. But I couldn't. Stephen loved Nicole, despite everything, despite the separate bedrooms and the arguments and the coldness. He still loved her. If I told him without proof, he wouldn't believe me. He'd think grief had broken something in my mind, and if Nicole found out I suspected her, what would she do? She'd already killed once, a child, her own son. What would stop her from killing again? I needed help, real help, someone who'd believe me, someone who knew how to handle this. After Stephen left for work and Nicole drove off to her office, I called Linda. Linda Hayes, my friend from nursing school. We'd worked together for 15 years at Denver General, delivered babies, held dying hands, seen every kind of tragedy humans could inflict on each other. She'd retired 3 years ago, moved to a small house on the south side with her husband. Her husband, Tom Hayes, retired police detective, 30 years on the force, homicide division. Linda answered on the second ring. Claire, she said, her voice warm, surprised. It's been too long. I need to talk to you, I said. In person. It's important. There was silence. Then, okay. When? Today. If you can. We met at a coffee shop on 6th Avenue, one of those places with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. Linda was already there when I arrived, sitting in the back corner, 2 cups of coffee on the table. She stood when she saw me, hugged me, held on a little longer than usual. You look terrible, she said. I sat down, wrapped my hands around the warm mug, and I told her everything. The moment in the kitchen, Jamie's ghost, the dinosaur toy, the medical records, the insurance policies, the debt, the argument I'd overheard. Linda listened, didn't interrupt, didn't question, just listened. Her face was serious, calm, the way she used to look when we were in the ER and someone came in with suspicious injuries. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. Claire, she said finally, are you sure? This is serious. I'm sure, I said. I've never been more sure of anything. She pulled out her phone, texted someone, set it down. Tom's on his way, she said. If this is real, we need to do this right. 20 minutes later, Tom walked in. 68 years old, gray hair, sharp eyes, the kind of man who notices everything. He sat down, ordered black coffee, looked at me. Linda told me, he said. Tell me again, from the beginning. So I did. Every detail, every inconsistency, every piece of evidence. He listened, took notes on a small pad, asked questions. His voice was calm, professional, no judgment. When I finished, he set down his pen. This is hard, he said. No witnesses, police already closed the case. But if you're right, there are ways. He looked at me across that coffee-stained table. Claire, he said, from this moment, everything will change. Once you start this, there's no going back. Are you ready? I thought about Jamie's little hand in mine. I thought about his voice. Stop her, Grandma. I nodded. I was ready. Tom gave me a small device, smaller than a thumb drive, a recording device. Wear this at all times, he said. In your pocket, in your bra, anywhere she won't see it. We need her voice, her words, proof. I took it, slipped it into my cardigan pocket. The next few days, I watched Nicole. Really watched. Not as a mother-in-law, as a witness. She woke late, usually around 9. Stephen left for work at 7. She had the house to herself for 2 hours every morning. She didn't eat breakfast, just coffee, black, 3 cups while scrolling through her phone. She smiled at the screen, laughed sometimes, her fingers moving fast, texting someone. One morning, I came downstairs early, found her in the kitchen, phone in hand, that smile on her face. "Good news?" I asked. She jumped, locked her phone, tucked it away. "Just work stuff, Mom," she said. But the way she held that phone, protective, secretive, that wasn't work. She left for the office around 11, said she'd be back around 6, but some days, she didn't come home until 8, 9, once, almost 10. Stephen never questioned it, said she was busy. Important project, big client. But I started paying attention to the details. One afternoon, I went into her room. She was at work. Stephen was at the office. The house was empty. I looked through her things, not proud of it, but I needed to know. Her closet was full of expensive clothes, tags still on some of them, dresses that cost $300, shoes that cost $500, all purchased in the last year. All while they were struggling to pay bills. I checked her dresser, found receipts stuffed in the back of a drawer. Restaurant receipts. Morton's Steakhouse, Capitol Grill, places where dinner for two costs $200, all dated within the last 6 months, all for 2 people. I took pictures with my phone, sent them to Tom. He texted back, "Keep going." That evening, Nicole came home late, 7:30. She said she'd grab dinner after work, didn't want to cook. But when I looked in her purse the next morning, I found a receipt. The Flagstone, downtown, a wine bar, dinner for 2, $183. I photographed it, sent it to Tom. Tom ran the location, pulled security footage. He still had connections, friends on the force who owed him favors. 2 days later, he called me. "Claire," he said, "you need to see this." We met at his house. Linda was there. Tom had his laptop open on the kitchen table. He turned it toward me, pressed play. Security footage, black and white, date stamp in the corner. 3 weeks ago, the Flagstone, 8:15 p.m. Nicole walked into frame. She wasn't alone. A man, tall, dark hair, mid-30s, wearing a suit. They sat at a corner table, leaned close. He touched her hand. She smiled. That real smile, the one she never gave Stephen anymore. They ordered wine, appetizers, entrees, talked for 2 hours. At the end, he kissed her. Right there in the restaurant, not a peck, a real kiss, long, deep. I felt sick. "Who is he?" I asked. Tom clicked to another screen. A driver's license, professional headshot. Marcus Reed, works at her company, marketing director, divorced, no kids. "How long?" I asked. Tom showed me more footage, different restaurants, different dates, going back a year. "They've been together at least 12 months, he said, maybe longer. I called Tom from the coffee shop parking lot, my hands shaking. "She has a lover," I said, "someone at work." "That's motive," Tom said. "Strong motive. Jamie was a burden. You're a burden. The insurance money was her way out." I went home, made dinner, acted normal. Nicole came home at 6, kissed Stephen on the cheek, asked about his day, smiled, played the perfect wife. I served pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans. At the table, I said something. Casual, testing. "Nicole, you seem happier lately." She looked at me, fork halfway to her mouth. "Life goes on, Mom. Jamie wouldn't want us to be sad forever." "You're right," I said, "but sometimes people still need time." Her expression changed, hardened. "I've grieved enough," she said. "I need to focus on my future now." "And Stephen?" I asked. She stopped cutting her meat, looked at me. "What about Stephen?" "He's still grieving," I said. "He'll move on too. People always do." The way she said it. Cold, flat, like Stephen was already gone, already irrelevant. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house settle. At 3 in the morning, I felt it again. The cold, the shift in temperature. I opened my eyes. Jamie sat in the chair by the window, moonlight passing through him, his form flickering like a candle flame. "Grandma," he said, "you're doing good." I sat up, whispered so no one else would hear. "I'm scared, baby. What if I can't prove it? He smiled. Sad but sure. You will, he said. Look in Mommy's car, under the seat. There's something she hid. What is it? The truth, he said. Then he faded, gone like smoke. The next morning, while Nicole was in the shower and Stephen had left for work, I went to the garage. I opened Nicole's car, and under the driver's seat, wrapped in a plastic bag, I found a small notebook. The first page read, Plan, step by step, make it look like an accident. I sat in that car, hands trembling. The notebook felt like it weighed 100 pounds. I turned the pages. Nicole's handwriting, neat, careful, every letter precise. Can't keep living like this, need freedom. Next page. Insurance, 500,000, filed March 15th. That was 8 months before Jamie died. I kept reading. Timeline, 6 months, wait after policy active. She'd planned it, calculated the waiting period, made sure the insurance couldn't be disputed. Method, kitchen accident, gas stove, head injury. My vision blurred. I blinked, kept reading. Timing, when Stephen is away, Margaret out of house. She'd waited for the perfect moment. When I wasn't there, when Stephen was traveling, when no one could witness, when no one could save him. Afterward, grief, sympathy, new life with M. Marcus. There were more pages, drafts of what to say to the police, how to sound, what words to use. I heard the crash, ran in, found him on the floor, not breathing. I tried CPR, called 911, please help. She'd rehearsed it, practiced her lines, like an actress preparing for a role. I pulled out my phone, took photos, every page, every word, made sure the lighting was good, that nothing was blurred. Sent them to Tom. His reply came fast. This is it. This is what we need. But we have to be careful. She can still claim it's fiction, a journal, dark thoughts. We need her to confess or to act on this. How? I typed back. Trust me. I have a plan. But you have to play along, and you have to stay safe. I put the notebook back exactly where I found it, under the seat, in the plastic bag, made sure everything looked untouched. Closed the car door, went back inside. But I'd barely made it to the kitchen when I heard a car in the driveway. Nicole's car. She was home early. I froze, my heart hammering. The garage door was still unlocked. Would she notice? Would she check under the seat? Would she know I'd found it? I heard the garage door open, close, her footsteps. She walked into the kitchen, saw me standing there. Mom, she said, what are you doing out here? I forced a smile, tried to steady my breathing. Just getting something from the freezer, I said. We're low on chicken. She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes narrowed, suspicious. The freezer is inside, she said, not in the garage. Oh, I said. Right. I got confused. She walked past me, toward the garage door. My pulse raced. She was going to check. She was going to know. But she stopped, turned back. Are you feeling okay, Mom? You seem off. Just tired, I said. Didn't sleep well. She watched me for another moment, then nodded. You should rest, she said. She went upstairs. I heard the shower turn on again. I stood there, breathing, my hands pressed against the counter. She stood so close I could feel her breath. Mom, she whispered, you should be more careful. People who snoop around, sometimes they find things they shouldn't. And sometimes, those people have accidents too. Then she walked past me into the house, leaving me standing there, frozen, realizing for the first time that I might be in real danger. That afternoon, Tom called, said he'd arranged a meeting, police station, downtown, 3 o'clock. I drove there myself, told Nicole I had a doctor's appointment. She didn't question it. The station was gray concrete, fluorescent lights, smelled like coffee and old paper. Tom met me in the lobby, walked me back through security, down a long hallway, into a small room, interview room, table, 3 chairs, mirror on one wall. A woman stood when we entered, 40 years old maybe, dark hair pulled back, sharp eyes, professional suit. Mrs. Bennett, she said. I'm Detective Sarah Morrison. Tom's told me about your situation. We shook hands. Her grip was firm. "Sit," she said. I sat. Tom sat beside me. Detective Morrison across the table. She opened a folder, spread out papers, photos I'd sent to Tom, copies of the police report, the hospital records, the insurance documents. "This is substantial," she said, "but we need more to make an arrest." A defense lawyer could argue the notebook was a journal, a way to process dark thoughts, not a plan. "So, what do we need?" I asked. "A confession," she said, "or we catch her in the act of something." She looked at me, direct, serious. "We need you to confront her, wear a wire, get her to admit what she did, or at least to threaten you, something we can use." My hands went cold. "She already threatened me," I said. "This morning, told me people who snoop have accidents." "Did you record it?" "No, I didn't have the device on me." Detective Morrison nodded. "Then we do it properly. Controlled. We wire you. We're right outside. The moment you say a code word, we come in." "What's the code word?" I asked. Tom leaned forward. "Your husband's name, Robert. You say Robert, we break down the door." "When?" I asked. "Tomorrow night," Detective Morrison said. "Stephen has a work event, corporate dinner. He won't be home until after 10. That gives you time alone with Nicole." "I'll be there?" "We'll be in an unmarked car, right outside. You'll have a panic button too. In your pocket. Press it, we come in." I looked at the photos on the table. Jamie's face in the hospital report, the notebook pages, Nicole's handwriting. "What if she realizes what I'm doing?" I asked. Detective Morrison's face didn't change. "That's the risk. But you have to act natural. Scared but not too scared. Willing to stay quiet if she thinks you will." I pulled out my phone. Found the photo I kept on the lock screen, Jamie's 5th birthday, frosting on his nose. "I'm doing this for him," I said. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. "We'll keep you safe, Claire. I promise." That night, I sat in my room, practiced what I'd say, how I'd sound, wrote a letter to Stephen, just in case, hid it under my mattress. I felt something, cold, familiar. Opened my eyes. Jamie sat on the edge of my bed, hand on my shoulder. "You can do this, Grandma," he whispered. "I'm with you. I'm doing this for you, baby. For you and for your daddy." Detective Morrison called. "Tomorrow night, Stephen will be at a work event until 10 p.m. That's your window. Are you ready, Mrs. Bennett?" I looked at my reflection in the mirror. I looked old, tired, scared, but I said yes, I'm ready. And I hung up. Then I whispered to the empty room, "Forgive me, Stephen, but I have to do this." The air grew cold, and I knew Jamie heard me. The next evening, Stephen left at 6, kissed me on the cheek, said he'd be late, corporate thing, clients. He looked tired, worn down, but he smiled, tried to anyway. "Be safe," I told him. "Always," he said. The door closed. His car pulled away. I was alone with Nicole. She was in the kitchen, pouring wine, red, expensive bottle, the kind she bought with money they didn't have. I touched the recording device in my pocket, made sure it was on. The panic button was there too, small, round, press it, and help would come. I walked into the kitchen. "Nicole," I said, "do you have a minute? I need to talk." She turned, glass in hand, smiled. That fake smile she gave everyone. "Sure, Mom. What is it?" I took a breath. "About Jamie," I said. Her smile flickered. "What about him? I think the accident wasn't an accident." She set her wine down, slow, careful. Her eyes changed, harder, colder. "What are you talking about?" "I found your notebook," I said, "in your car." Her face went blank. No expression, no denial, just calculating. "You went through my things?" I kept going, had to. "You planned it. The insurance, the timing, everything." She took a step toward me. Her voice dropped, low, dangerous. "So what? You going to tell Stephen? The police? Who's going to believe you? A sad old woman who's losing her mind with grief?" "People will believe the evidence," I said. She laughed, sharp, bitter. "What evidence? That notebook? It's just thoughts. Dark thoughts. Stress. That's what my lawyer will say. She moved closer. I could smell her perfume. Expensive, floral. You know what, Margaret? She said, using my first name, not Mom. You should have stayed out of it. Because now you're a problem too, and I know how to solve problems. She reached behind her, opened a drawer, pulled out a knife, kitchen knife, 8 inches, sharp. I saw it gleam in the light, and I realized, she's going to kill me too. Then, Nicole leaned close and whispered, You know what, Margaret? You should have stayed out of it, because now you're a problem too, and I know how to solve problems. She reached behind her and pulled out a knife from the drawer. I saw it gleam in the kitchen light, and I realized, she's going to kill me too. I stepped back, hands up. Nicole, don't do something you'll regret. She moved forward, knife steady in her hand. Regret? She said. You think I regret killing that kid? I said the word. Loud. Clear. Robert wouldn't want this. The code word. Help was coming. Nicole's face twisted, confused. What? Why are you talking about your dead husband? Then we heard it. The front door, slamming open, footsteps, heavy, fast. Drop the weapon, hands up. Detective Morrison. 3 uniformed officers behind her, guns drawn. Nicole spun around, still holding the knife. Her face went white. She looked at me, understanding dawning. You set me up, she said. You were recording. She looked down, saw the wire peeking out from my collar. You clever bitch. Drop it now, Morrison said. Nicole's hand opened. The knife clattered to the floor. An officer kicked it away. Another moved in, cuffed her hands behind her back. But Nicole wasn't fighting. She just stood there, staring at me. You want to know the truth? She said. Fine, I'll tell you. Morrison stepped forward. You have the right to remain silent. I don't care, Nicole said. Let her hear it. She looked straight at me, her eyes empty, dead. I never wanted to be a mother, never. Stephen wanted a child. I did it for him. But the moment Jamie was born, I felt nothing. No love, no connection, just burden. Her voice was flat, emotionless. I tried. For years I tried to fake it, but every day was torture. His crying, his needs, his constant, mommy, mommy, mommy. I wanted my life back. Tears started running down my face. Then I met Marcus, she said. He saw me as a woman, not just a mother. He wanted me free, and I realized I could be free. So you planned it? I said. She nodded, like it was nothing, like she was talking about grocery shopping. Carefully, I waited until the insurance was solid, until the timing was right. Stephen away, you out of the house. Tell me what happened that night, I said. I needed to hear it, needed to know. Nicole's face changed. Something flickered there. Pain, maybe, or just exhaustion. That night, she said, I told Jamie we'd make his favorite dinner. He was so excited. He brought his little dinosaur. He always had that stupid toy. Rex, I whispered. She didn't seem to hear me. I turned on the stove, told him to stand close, that I'd teach him to cook. He trusted me. Her voice cracked, just a little. Then I grabbed his arm, pressed it onto the burner. He screamed. God, he screamed so loud. I sobbed. Couldn't help it. How could you do that? I asked. Nicole looked at me, and for the first time I saw tears in her eyes, real ones. He fought. He tried to pull away, so I hit him, with the pan, on the back of his head. He fell, and the screaming stopped. The room was silent. Even the officers looked sick. I called 911, Nicole continued. I cried. I played the devastated mother, and everyone believed me. She looked at Morrison, at the officers, then back at me. Even you, even Stephen. Because who would think a mother could kill her own child? Her knees buckled. She sank to the floor, still cuffed, crying now, really crying. But I couldn't stop seeing his face. Every night, his little face looking up at me, asking why, Mommy. I thought the money would make it worth it. I thought freedom would make me happy, but it didn't. Nothing did. And then you started asking questions, and I knew it was over. I knelt down. Even after everything, I knelt beside her. Do you regret it? I asked. She looked at me, mascara running, face red and swollen. Every second of every day. But it doesn't matter, does it? He's gone. Because of me. Detective Morrison pulled her up. That's enough. Let's go. But Nicole turned back. One last time. I'm sorry, Margaret. I'm so sorry. Tell Stephen I never deserved him. Or Jamie. They led her out. The door closed. The house went quiet. I sat on the kitchen floor, right where Jamie died, right where his blood had soaked into the wood. Tom came in, helped me stand. You did it, Claire. You got justice for him. But I didn't feel victorious. Just empty. Hollow. Detective Morrison approached. We have the full confession. Recorded. She'll go to prison for life. I nodded. Couldn't speak. The kitchen lights flickered. I felt it. The cold. That familiar presence. I turned. Jamie stood in the doorway. Solid this time. Almost real. Smiling. Thank you, Grandma. I whispered so only he could hear. Can you rest now, baby? He nodded. I can go now, but I'll always love you. Light surrounded him. Bright. Warm. Not cold anymore. I reached out. Wait, I'm not ready. But he was already fading. The light growing softer, gentler. Then gone. Just empty air, empty kitchen. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. He's at peace now. You gave him that. I sat back down, pulled my knees to my chest, cried. Not just for Jamie, for Stephen, for the family we'd been, for everything Nicole had destroyed. Tom sat beside me, didn't say anything, just stayed. And I thought about what I'd done. I'd gotten justice for Jamie, exposed the truth, saved Stephen from the same fate. But I'd destroyed my son's life in the process. Stephen would never forgive me for this. I'd chosen truth over his happiness. I'd torn apart what was left of our family. I didn't know if I could forgive myself either. But as I sat there in that empty kitchen, I realized something. I'd gotten justice for Jamie, but I'd destroyed my son's life in the process. Stephen would never forgive me for this. I'd chosen the truth over his happiness, and I didn't know if I could forgive myself either. They called Stephen at the corporate event, told him to come home, emergency, police matter. He arrived at 11, saw the squad cars, the lights, ran inside. Mom, what happened? Detective Morrison met him in the doorway. Mr. Anderson, I'm sorry, your wife has been arrested. What? Why? For murder. Your son. Stephen's face went blank. No, that's impossible. Jamie died in an accident. I stepped forward, voice shaking. Stephen, it wasn't an accident. I'm sorry. He looked at me, really looked, trying to understand. What did you do? I reached for him. I had to find out the truth. He pulled back. You did this? You got my wife arrested? Morrison explained, showed him the notebook, the insurance policies, the evidence. Stephen shook his head, kept shaking it. This is insane. Nicole would never. Then Morrison played the recording. Nicole's voice. Clear, confessing. I grabbed his arm, pressed it onto the burner. He screamed. I hit him with the pan. Stephen dropped to his knees, vomited on the front lawn. The weeks after were a blur. Stephen moved out, got an apartment downtown, wouldn't return my calls. When I texted him, he replied with one line. You destroyed my life. Stay away from me. I stayed in the house alone, too big, too quiet. Every room felt like a tomb. I went to Jamie's room sometimes, sat on his bed, held his stuffed animals, cried until I had nothing left. One afternoon, I heard something. A whisper in the wind, Robert's voice. You did what you had to, Maggie. But it didn't help. Didn't ease the pain. 6 months later, the trial began. I had to testify. Sat on the witness stand, told the whole story. From Jamie's ghost at the stove to finding the notebook to the confrontation. Nicole's lawyer tried to tear me apart, said I was delusional, said grief had made me hallucinate, that I'd imagined everything. But the evidence didn't lie. The notebook, the insurance policies, the medical examiner's report showing injuries inconsistent with an accident. The recorded confession. Nicole sat at the defense table, staring down. She didn't look at me, didn't look at anyone. When they asked if she wanted to testify, she stood. "I'm guilty," she said. "I killed my son. I deserve whatever punishment I get." Her lawyer tried to stop her. She ignored him. The judge asked if she understood what she was saying. "Yes," she said. "I understand. I did it. It was me. No one else." The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. First-degree murder. The judge sentenced her. Life in prison. No possibility of parole. Stephen sat in the back row, face pale. He didn't look at me, didn't acknowledge I existed. When they led Nicole out, she turned. One last time, our eyes met. Her lips moved. "I'm sorry." I nodded, just barely. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouting over each other. Tom got me to his car, drove me home. "You did the right thing," he said. "Then why does it feel so wrong?" He didn't have an answer. I walked out of that courtroom alone. Stephen didn't even look at me. Justice was served. My grandson could rest in peace, but I'd lost my son in the process. And I wondered, was it worth it? I went home after the trial. The house was silent, terrifying kind of silent. No Jamie's laughter, no Stephen's footsteps, just the clock ticking in the hallway, the refrigerator humming, the house settling. I sat in the living room, watched the afternoon light come through the lace curtains, shadows dancing on the carpet, like memories. Days blurred together. I woke up, made coffee, sat at the table, went through the motions. Linda called every few days, asked if I needed anything. I said no. I didn't know what I needed. One afternoon, I went outside, into the backyard. The grass needed mowing. The flower beds were full of weeds. I knelt down, touched the soil. It was warm, alive. I planted a rose bush. Jamie had loved roses, pink ones especially, said they smelled like candy. I dug the hole, set the plant in, covered the roots, watered it. The breeze picked up, leaves rustled. It sounded like whispers, like Jamie saying, "It's okay, Grandma." I cried, but it felt different, lighter somehow. I sat in that garden as the sun set, dirt under my nails, tears drying on my cheeks. The roses swayed in the evening breeze. And then I heard it, a car pulling into the driveway, slowly, hesitantly. I looked up. Someone was here. The car door opened. Stephen stepped out. He looked different, thinner, hair longer, beard grown in. He stood there for a moment, looking at me across the yard. "Hi, Mom." My throat closed. I couldn't speak. He walked toward me, slow steps, like he wasn't sure if he should. I stood up, brushed the dirt off my hands, tried to. "Stephen," I managed. We stood facing each other, the rosebush between us, the sun setting behind the house, casting long shadows. "I've been away," he said, trying to process everything. "I know. My therapist said I needed to face you, to hear your side." I looked down, at my dirty hands, the garden, anywhere but his eyes. "I don't expect you to forgive me. Not yet. Maybe not ever." He was quiet. Then, "I'm not here to forgive you. Not yet. I don't know if I ever can." The words hurt, but I deserved them. "But I need to understand why you couldn't just let it go." I looked up then, met his eyes. Because I looked into Jamie's eyes and I couldn't turn away. He flinched, like I'd hit him. "Do you really believe he came to you? As a ghost?" I don't know what I believe anymore, but something made me look, something made me question. And when I did, everything fell apart. Stephen moved to the garden chair, sat down, put his head in his hands. Part of me wants to believe it too, that he's still somewhere, watching over us. Another part thinks maybe you just needed a reason, an excuse to destroy Nicole. I sat down on the grass, close but not touching. "I never wanted to destroy her. I wanted to protect you. And Jamie." Stephen looked at me, really looked, for the first time since the arrest. "You know what the hardest part is?" I waited. "It's not that Nicole killed my son. I mean, it is. But it's also that I loved her. I really loved her. And I had no idea who she really was." His voice broke. "What does that say about me? That I shared a bed with a murderer for years and never knew? I reached out, put my hand on his arm. He didn't pull away. That's not your fault. Then whose fault is it? Hers? Yours? Mine? Jamie is dead, and I don't know who to blame anymore. We sat there as the sun finished setting, the sky going from orange to purple to dark blue. Finally, Stephen spoke again. I'm seeing a therapist, 3 times a week, trying to work through it. That's good. She says, I need to accept that people can love someone and not truly understand them. That Nicole was broken in ways I couldn't see, couldn't fix. I think she's right. Stephen looked at the rose bush. Is that for Jamie? I nodded. Pink roses, his favorite. He smiled. Small, sad. He would have liked it, always wanted to help you in the garden, even though he mostly just made a mess. I laughed. It came out half sob. He'd spill water everywhere, get dirt all over himself. Stephen's smile widened. Just a fraction. Remember when he tried to plant carrots in the middle of winter? Said he wanted them for Christmas dinner. We sat there, sharing memories. For the first time since Jamie died, we talked about him without it destroying us. After a while, Stephen stood. I'm not ready to move back in, but maybe I could visit? Once a week? I stood too, nodded. Anytime you want. He walked toward his car, then stopped, turned back. Do you think he's at peace now, Jamie? I thought about that last moment, when Jamie faded into light, when he said goodbye. Yes, I think he is. Stephen got in his car, started the engine, but before he drove away, he rolled down the window. Thank you, Mom, for not giving up on the truth, for loving him enough to fight. Then he was gone, taillights disappearing down the street. I went back to the rose bush, touched the soft petals. They were cool in the evening air. The months after that were slow, careful, like learning to walk after a long illness. Stephen came by every Sunday. We'd have coffee, talk, sometimes about Jamie, sometimes about other things, work, the weather, nothing important. But we were talking, that was something. I started volunteering at a children's advocacy center, helping kids who'd been hurt, abused, neglected, using my nursing skills to examine them, document their injuries, testify when needed. It gave me purpose, a way to honor Jamie, to protect other children the way I'd protected him, even if it was too late for him. One little girl reminded me of Jamie, same blonde hair, same blue eyes. She was scared, wouldn't talk. I sat with her, read her stories, held her hand when she cried. Eventually, she opened up, told us what her stepfather had done. We got her somewhere safe. As she left with her caseworker, she hugged me. Thank you, she whispered. And I thought, this is how I honor you, Jamie, by saving the ones I can. As the sun set that evening, I looked at my son, my broken, healing son, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Hope, small, fragile, but growing, like the rose beside us. The months turned into a year. Stephen kept coming, every Sunday, sometimes more often, Wednesday evenings, Saturday mornings. We cooked together, planted more roses, talked about everything and nothing. One Sunday, we drove to the cemetery. Together, first time since the funeral. Jamie's grave was small, simple headstone. Jamie Michael Anderson, age 6, beloved son and grandson. Someone had left flowers, fresh ones. I looked at Stephen. I come every week, he said. Talk to him, tell him about my day. I knelt down, touched the cool marble. I visit too, I said, Tuesdays. We'd been coming separately, both of us too broken to face it together, until now. Stephen knelt beside me. Do you still feel him? He asked. Around? Sometimes. In the wind. When I smell cookies baking. When I see other kids playing. I feel him too. We sat there for a while. The sun warm on our backs, birds singing in the trees nearby. Stephen put his hand over mine. Thank you, he said, for not giving up on the truth, for fighting. I'm sorry it cost you so much. He shook his head. It didn't cost me. Nicole did. You saved me from her, even if I couldn't see it then. We walked back to the car together. As we drove away, I looked in the rearview mirror, the cemetery fading behind us. And I felt something I hadn't felt since that moment in the kitchen when Jamie grabbed my hand. Peace. As we walked away from his grave that day, I felt the sun warm on my face, and I knew we weren't fixed. We might never be the same, but we were together, and we were healing, one day at a time. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did, if I regret pursuing the truth about my grandson's death. The honest answer? I don't know. I got justice for Jamie. Nicole is in prison. The truth came out. But I also lost a year with my son. I broke his heart. I shattered his world. Was it worth it? I think about Jamie's little hand in mine that day by the stove. His voice, "Grandma, please, don't turn it on." He was asking me to save him, even after death. And I did. So yes, it was worth it. Because truth matters, justice matters, and love, real love, means protecting the ones who can't protect themselves, even when it costs you everything. If you were in my place, what would you have done? Would you have stayed silent to keep the peace? Or would you have fought for the truth no matter the cost? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this story touched you, please share it. Because somewhere out there, someone might need to hear that it's okay to fight for what's right, even when it's hard. Thanks for listening.